guys, Jay here, welcome to EonsOfBattle. Warhammer 40,000 can feel like a difficult to swallow value proposition sometimes. You do get some really cool miniatures, but does Warhammer like to make you pay for the privilege? Usually it's fine because you get the cool unit that you get to play with on the tabletop for the amount of money that they ask for, but sometimes the value is a little bit on the iffy side. I've compiled a list of what I think are some of the worst values currently available in Warhammer 40,000. It has gotten better over the years. There was a lot of weirdness, even at the early onset of 10th edition, where some squads where you had to buy 3 of this thing and this other thing and kind of combine it into the thing, where nowadays most every kit is you buy the unit, you have the units. But some of those units, starting off with Space Marine Scouts. Now, Scouts got a refreshed model not too long ago, and it came out for the game Kill Team, and it's still available for the game Kill Team, and it costs $82. Why are Space Marine Scouts one of the most ubiquitous Space Marine units? Every army should probably have a squad of scouts for running around, scoring points, standing on objectives, but $82 for a 10-man squad feels outrageous. The reason that the cost is so much more than the typical $60 that a Warhammer box costs is because it comes with tokens for the game Kill Team. But number one, these cardboard tokens are not worth an extra $20. And also, there should be 2 boxes because it's available for both games. I should have the option to either buy a squad of Space Marine Scouts for my Warhammer army, or if I want to get into Kill Team where I want those extra tokens and things, I should be able to buy that box, and that box shouldn't cost any more. Kill Team is supposed to be the cheap way to get into playing games in the Warhammer 40,000 setting. I feel like last edition, it was pretty good. You buy a box, you got everything you need to play the game, especially if your buddy already owns the rulebook. But now, Kill Team is looking real rough in terms of the value. And then every Space Marine player in the world now has to look at the $82 box of Scouts. You're paying $8.20 per little guy. And if you only want to take a 5-man squad, which is fairly typical for a Space Marine army, then you're paying $16 a fella. At least knock Space Marine Scouts down to the regular price of a Space Marine box, which is $60. I feel like that would be fine-ish. I want Space Marine Scouts. I don't want to pay $82. But speaking of another thing that I want that I do not want to pay for, looking at the Adeptus mechanicus. Adeptus mechanicus models are gorgeous, super interesting, super cool, super unique to Warhammer 40,000. One particular unit, the Sidonian Dragoon, is a big old chicken walker with a little servitor attached to the front of it, and then a Skitarii rider on top with a whole menagerie of different weapons and equipment that it could take. It's a really cool kit for $65. This kit builds you one model that in-game costs 55 points. The points are less than the price of the box in dollars. You're paying more dollars than points on the tabletop. And Sidonian Dragoons can be taken in squads of up to 3. So if you want a full squad of 3, which is just one unit on the tabletop, that would be 150 points, it's $195. I really wanted to do an Adeptus Mechanicus army, and I thought a cavalry army would be so cool with a ton of these things running around, but $65 a pop for every single little tiny normal horsey rider type unit. It's just outrageous. I feel like Games Workshop, maybe they wrote or made a really cool model before they came up with the rules for that really cool model, and so it was meant to be a little bit more of a sentinel or a dreadnought type of model, but then in the tabletop, it just became one normal dude on a horsey. $65 is a lot of money for just a horsey rider. Moving on to the Chaos side of Warhammer, this box actually isn't that bad in terms of its value, but it's just really weird that it exists, and it is Chaos Obliterators and Venom Crawler. I think that Games Workshop made a Versus box back in the day, and so that's why these 2 kits exist on the same sprue together, and so you can't purchase them separately. and it comes out to $82 to buy both of these units for your Chaos Space Marine army, which actually works out to, I guess, a deal because you'd be buying each one individually for probably around $60, but you don't have the option to buy them independently, and they're very different units. The obliterators are two big, beefy Centurion-style guys that are all about shooting, and they're pretty darn cool, and I could see, like, especially people wanting to buy multiple squads of them, especially with their once per game indirect fire. But then the Venom Crawler is much more of like a Sentinel-style unit, where it's meant to kind of stand in the back. I think it's like toughness 9, it's got some interesting shooting profiles, like autocannon shots. It's like an interesting little medium vehicle, and you're forced to purchase them together. So if you want a bunch of Venom Crawlers, you're getting a bunch of Obliterators. And if you want a bunch of Obliterators, you're ending up with a bunch of Venom Crawlers. And do you want to max out on both every single time? I don't know why they're still together, and I think because they've been duct taped together, they're less popular in the game, and so fewer people are actually buying and taking them. And because fewer people are buying and taking them, it's creating less incentive for Games Workshop to just make them their own distinct units. So it's a weird thing. This happens a couple of times. I think Space Marines have something like this too, in the Space Marine suppressors, which are attached to the Vanguard box, which used to be, I think it used to just be called the Vanguard box, but now I think it is a Vanguard Spearhead box, or not Spearhead, that's the detachment, and a game for Age of Sigmar. I forget what it's called, but yeah, you can't currently buy Space Marine suppressors, and you can't buy just Chaos Obliterators and just the Venom Crawler, which is a little annoying. But speaking of things that are annoying in kind of a really fun way, another really bad value proposition in the world of Warhammer is pink horrors for the Demons of Tzeentch. Pink horrors are very unique in that every time you kill a pink horror, you roll a die, and on a 4-up, it turns into 2 blue horrors. And every time those blue horrors die, you roll a die, and on a 4-up, they turn into brimstone horrors. This sounds like so much fun in game. I've never heard of anybody actually taking horrors, so I would like to actually see it in action, because it sounds like it would be the ultimate tar pit unit. Like, even if all 10 of your pink horrors get wiped, mathematically, they're gonna respawn into 10 blue horrors. And then if all of those guys get wiped, mathematically, they're gonna respawn into 5 brimstone horrors. Like, that's 3 turns that you've definitely got guys. I guess if multiple squads shoot them in the same phase, then they could get whittled down to nothing. But it's a really, really interesting mechanic that unfortunately forces you to buy 2 boxes. You have to buy a box of pink horrors, and you have to buy a box of blue and brimstone horrors, and it's $48 each. So to take a squad of 10 pink horrors in a game of 40k, you have to buy both of these boxes, and so you're paying $9.60 per little nothing chaff pink horror. It does sound like a ton of fun, and it's really interesting that it exists, but that's a lot of money for one of the squishiest models in all of 40k. There's kind of nothing to them. You do pay a lot of points. It's 140 points for a squad of 10 pink horrors, and I think it is expensive because of that resurrection mechanic that they have. But yeah, there's no way to get around. I guess you could play with like buttons and pennies instead of the blue and the brimstone horrors if you felt like it. But I guess at that point, you could just use peanuts for the pink horrors. Like, if you're proxying, then you could just do whatever you want always. If you want to do it the official Games Workshop way with the cool miniatures, you're gonna have to buy 2 boxes to get 10 guys. It does sound like fun though. One thing that is not as much fun, for me specifically, is Plague Marines, and there is a model for the Death Guard range called the Plague Marine Champion. This guy is a Plague Marine. He is 1 regular Plague Marine available in a Games Workshop blister for $35. And he is not an independent character. He is not an upgrade choice for a unit. He is just 1 regular Plague Marine with a Power Fist. And he's $35. In game, he's 19 points. And it's just weird. Like, a Power Fist a Power Fist does come in the Plague Marine box. Now, there's some awkwardness with the Plague Marine box because you get 7 models in that box, which is not correct. They can be taken in 5-man, 7-man, or 10-man squad, and there is a little something to the 7-man because you're not paying as much as you would for the 10-man squad, but you still have a little bit of cushion for getting shot at, more so than a 5-man squad. So there's a little something to it, but this guy still doesn't help because you can't take 8. And if you bought 2 boxes, I guess then you could stick them on the end to make 15 so you had 3 5-man squads. You still wouldn't end up with the right amount of weapons, and I guess you would end up with an extra power fist. But it's just a really weird thing. Games Workshop used to sell something called Death Guard reinforcements, which was 3 Death Guard that I guess were meant to be attached to the 7 Death Guard so that you could have a proper 10-man squad off the rip. But they don't sell that anymore. They still sell the Plague Marine Champion, and he's just a guy. It's a little weird, it's a little funky. I guess he's just an interesting alternate option that people have if you want to spend a lot of money on your Plague Marines to have one extra unique Space Marine with a Power Fist. Definitely a weird unit. I don't think this exists anywhere else in 40k where you can buy a single unit that is not, like you can't take one Plague Marine and he doesn't act as an independent character for another unit. It's just an alternate Plague Marine sculpt. Actually, you know what? This does exist, and it is the Noise Marine. The one singular Noise Marine with a guitar that is just, it's a unit that must be attached to the rest of its squad, but it is sold separately. I don't know what it is about Chaos, but there's some weirdness in the Chaos Space Marine range. But speaking of weirdness in a model range, Dark Eldar. Games Workshop does not like my Dark Elf boys and Scourges. I adore Scourges. They're the coolest thing. There are these winged elves that carry the heaviest weapons available to the Dark Eldar, and I love them dearly. The problem is that you only get one of each heavy weapon in the squad, but absolutely you want to take multiple of the same gun. Really, Darklands and Haywire Blasters are the go-to weapon options right now for Scourges, and in order to make that happen, the easiest way to do it is to buy 4 boxes of Scourges. So even though Scourges aren't the most expensive box at $39, you're almost certainly buying 4 boxes in one go. Now this isn't necessarily a waste because that would allow you to build 1 squad with all Darklands and 1 squad with all Haywire, and then 2 squads with Shard Carbine. So you are using all of the models in the box, and you're getting some really solid units out of all of those boxes. But you're kind of stuck with you always have to go big and buy all of the boxes at once to really have WYSIWYG exactly what you would want to take in a game of 40k. If Games Workshop wanted to, please remake the Scourge box with enough options for everything just available in the box. They've been doing a really good job with the new Guard heavy weapon teams. The Cadian heavy weapon team and the Creek heavy weapon team come with enough options in the box so that you can build a full max loadout of every single weapon option. Super solid, absolutely love it. If Games Workshop's not gonna do that, then please leave my Scourges alone because they're the best thing in the codex and I don't want anything to happen to them. I will bite the bullet and buy all the boxes that I need to build the squads I want so that I can actually have a really good anti-tank thing in my army because the Ravager tank is not cutting it. I need my Scourges. And the new Shard Carbine Scourges are actually pretty solid. They can give you -1 AP or +1 AP against 1 target per battle round. So it's a really, really solid unit, and it gives you a little bit more incentive to put together the rest of the piddly guys who don't get to take the cool heavy weapons. Scourges, a little bit of a tough pill to swallow. It's made a little bit better in that they're one of the best things available to Dark Eldar, and they're really, really cool. I mean, they're elves with like bat and bird wings, dripping with different toxins and poison injectors, and Dark Lances are really good. Like, Dark Lances are one of the best las cannon equivalent weapons in the game of 40k. And they like hold them like a chainsaw. It's a really, really cool weapon. The reason that the Scourges are like that is because they're an older plastic kit, but a plastic kit that is really not that old is the Orc Mech Gun. This is a cannon that is surrounded by a crew of different little Gretchen, and it's a really interesting weapon. It looks fantastic. It's a really, really cool Orc gun. These guys have a very similar problem to the Sidonian Dragoons. I feel like Games Workshop, the model designers, created something that was really, really cool and thematic and awesome. And then when it was time for the rules writers to actually come up with something for this unit, they dropped the ball a little bit. The Orc Mech Gun is $60, and in-game, 1 Orc Mech Gun is 50 points. And once again, they can be taken in squads of 3. So if you wanted a full squad of mech guns, that's setting you back $180. And that's like like you could buy a bunch of Terminators and have a full third of your army done in one purchase for that kind of money. And instead it's 150 points. Like it's a Rhino plus. It's really, really expensive for the amount of points that you're getting in game. The mech guns are really, really cool. Potentially they could maybe be bumped up in points and in damage potential so that they match a little bit better in terms of just the value proposition of what they do on the tabletop versus how many actual dollary dues they cost to buy. But because it's so askew right now, it's so off, I don't see a lot of mech guns. The mech guns in game, they feel like a 50-point little unit that can shoot a little bit, but they don't feel like something where I want to go to the Warhammer store and come out with armfuls of these things that you would actually need to play in a game. I have played them in a game, and they are kind of fun, and they're big, so they take up a lot of room if you wanted to actually like move block your opponent from getting into your deployment zone. They are really, really fun, and they have things like the Bubble Chukka, which is a random gun that you have to roll for to see how it actually shoots in game. It's a really cool little thing, but $60 a pop, I don't know about that. Now there is one more model that I think is an absolute terrible value from Games Workshop, and it is a newer kit that has injured me personally. But first, did you know that we have a website full of all sorts of great hobby goodies? EonsOfBattle.com is the place to find all sorts of great hobby goodies. We got Army Painter paints, brushes, wet palettes, basing cork, ultra thick and ultra thin super glue, and we have terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit, good for any one terrain pack we have ever made, or the brand spanking new one. New in January, we have created the Tomb Library, a set of hyper-advanced structures designed to quickly get a thematic defensive position up and running on the tabletop. The wall sections create an impenetrable fortress as they crackle with energy, floating just above the battlefield. And following just behind are the sarcophagus, ancient tombs of forbidden power, with room to display the aliens' captured trophies and macabre exhibits. This terrain was designed by us and is available at EonsOfBattle.com. This year I've been putting together a Kroot army, and Kroot in general, one of the more expensive armies you can put together because it is a horde army, and it is also a very new army. So a lot of these boxes are kind of on the upper end of the Games Workshop price range, and you need a lot of them. I was able to kind of make it work. I got a couple of the Christmas boxes from a couple years ago, and I was able to snag some things on eBay for a decent price, and so I was able to get everything I needed, but one thing I have not pulled the trigger on yet is the Kroot Hound. This is a box of 5 super cute little Kroot doggos, and in-game, they're about as powerful as you'd imagine 5 dogs are. They don't do a whole lot. They have very, very good movement, very, very low OC. A squad of 5 costs 40 points in-game. They're incredibly cheap. And usually a very, very cheap body in 40k is a very good deal. Without objective control, they are a little bit less useful because they can't do a lot of things in the mission. But if they're standing close to another Kroot character model, then they actually go to objective control 1. So they're definitely a good unit and a unit that I want at least 2 squads of in my army. They're pretty solid, but they're $43.50 for the 5 little doggos. That's too much. How come Space Marine Scouts are in a box of 10? Like, make these guys in a box of 10 for like $65. Like, it's just 5 doggos. They're so piddly. They're so nothing. They're like, the reason I haven't bought them is because they're really expensive for what they are. At least when I buy a box of carnivores, I get like 10 big, beautiful guys that, sure, they're a little piddly in game, but they got guns, they've got grenades, they've got close combat weapons, they've got all sorts of different interesting options. The Kroot Carnivore kit is phenomenal. I've put it together 7 times now, and all of the arms are interchangeable. A lot of the different weapons are interchangeable. They have all sorts of little bags and pouches and grenades and all these different accessories that you can glue on in different ways. Any of the heads fit on any of the bodies. Like, there's a lot of fun to be had with that box, and I don't feel like I was taken advantage of at all because I had so much fun and I had so many options when it came to putting together that kit. These dogs are just 5 dogs. I'm pretty sure there's no options. Each one is only able to be built one way. And how come 10 unique carnivores come in a box, but just 5 doggos come in this box for $43? So that is $8.70 per puppy. That's, that does hurt a little bit. I do really want them. They're really, really good. And I'm already taking 6 squads of Kroot carnivores, so I've maxed out on how many carnivores I'm allowed to take in the game. So the Kroot hounds are a nice way to include even more generic chaff units in my army. Like, they're good. Like, I do want them. But man, it's like it's more fun when my dollars are going to something really, really cool, like rampagers. These big brute bird guys with a little rider on the back. Like, those guys are cool and they feel awesome. These are just, there's something I need. It's like dice. Like, I need to have it for the game, but it doesn't, I'm not going to be thinking about Kroot hounds as I'm drifting off to sleep. I'm going to be thinking about the Krootox riders and all of the other like really cool things that are going to do amazing stuff in the game. Maybe the Kroot hounds will surprise me and they'll do something awesome, but I mean, they're kind of just meant to run into the enemy line and like keep them stuck in their deployment zone. That's pretty much all they're meant to do. That's my list of Games Workshop kits that I think are, they're a little hard to look at. They're a little hard to justify. The wallet is not springing open to go pick up any of these kits. There is something to the obliterators. They are pretty cool, but I don't know if I want to also buy a Venom Crawler at the same time. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have any really, really bad value kits that you've seen over the years. Maybe just the entire Genestealer Cult range, because those guys are really, really cheap in game, but the kits are not super cheap. Space Marines are usually pretty good because you need far fewer of those actual miniatures to put together a full 2,000 point army. But there are some factions like Dark Eldar and Orcs, Genestealer Cult, Kroot Tau, that boy, putting together a proper army, it gets kind of expensive. Thanks for watching.